Alright guys, I'm gonna be extremely blunt and Merry Christmas to all of you. There was no UFC this Saturday. There was no MMA, so to speak, this Saturday, but there was martial arts. There was boxing. We had the Day of Reckoning with Anthony Joshua versus Otto Wallin, Deontay Wilder and versus Joseph Parker, and that whole mega boxing card that kind of panned out so-so. Yeah. How did we feel about that? How did we really feel about that? Well, we're gonna get into our thoughts and things like that, but first of all, how are you guys doing? Willins gang. What would you like to be called? Matter of fact, we're still trying to come up with this code name, you know? We have the podcast, The Will versus The Way. We've been talking about it like that. Or, you know, we might start calling y'all the villains. Y'all have a lot of controversial opinions and you make me run with these things. But with that being said, I hope you guys are all doing well, whether you talk shit about my opinions or not. And we have a lot to talk about today. And so if you guys want to support the content, feel free to leave a like on the video, leave your thoughts down below, and hit that subscribe button if you have not already. So like I said, there was no UFC this weekend, which means you have to listen to what I'm gonna say about all these other events, right? We had boxing, we had the Day of Reckoning, which we just talked about, and we also had Muay Thai. Now I think this was the perfect weekend, and what better weekend than the holidays, right? To finally see the difference between boxing and Muay Thai. Now, we had one of the most stacked boxing cards of all time in the Day of Reckoning. Ginormous stars like Deontay Wilder, the superstar who ended up losing to Joseph Parker, Oceania superstar, right? And then we had Anthony Joshua, who ended up demolishing Otto Wallin, who had a close fight with Tyson Fury, so we know he's a good opponent, but Joshua just beat him down and beat the brakes off of him, really. And so those fights were a little bit weird, right? We had Big Baby Davis taking on Daniel Dubois. It was actually a really good fight, and they ended up stopping it in the last round. A little bit of a questionable stoppage, but you know, it's boxing, right? So Dubois got the win, Joshua got the win, Wilder did not. Joseph Parker ended up getting the win. Real quick, we're gonna recap these events, and then we're gonna talk about why we need to change our habits as mixed martial arts fans, depending on where you're from, because not all of us are from the US, right? But if you're in the US and you haven't heard of One Championship, you're gonna hear about it today, because boxing, I think we can all agree, is very global, but probably has its peak viewers in the US, right? US, London, things like that. Now, like I said, the Day of Reckoning was a substantial card. They had a bunch of different fights. Even Dimitri Bivol ended up fighting, and he dominated his opponent. They're gonna make that fight with Beterbiev, but the who's who was not fighting the who's who. We had so many fights, or so many names on these cards, and it seemed like every single one of them, other than the Dubois and Big Baby Miller fight, was a setup fight. How are you gonna have Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua on the same card? They've talked about fighting for the last, I don't know, 5-6 years, and they're not fighting each other. It's supposed to be the biggest card in history, and the co-main and main event are setup fights. Now, we understand the boxing politics, try and get the most amount of money per event. That's all bullshit, and now we can see why it's bullshit. You try and set these guys up with people you think that they're gonna beat, to try and set up these mega fights that you think are gonna get you so much more money, rather than just making the mega fight right out the gate. Why not just make it right out the gate? Wilder is what, 38? You think he's gonna be at his peak for much longer? Do you think he was never really the most technical fighter, and we kind of saw it today? I mean, this doesn't take away from anything he's done in his career. He was a great fighter. He's been a great fighter, and you know, it's a fight at the end of the day, and you either win or you lose. Joseph Parker came to fight. Wilder seemed like he was trying to fight on the outside, which was never his style, and ended up getting outpointed every single round. Thought he won somehow. A little weird there. He did put it on him in the 12th round. Joseph Parker ended up getting a little bit tired, and Wilder ended up finding his shots. He did what he should have done since round 1. So I think that was a little bit weird that he finally decided, okay, let's start putting them together. But people are saying ring rust, he hadn't fought in over a year, A lot of different reasons why that fight went the way it did, but Joseph Parker ended up getting the win, upsetting a lot of people, and he's gonna get a big fight next, right? Anthony Joshua, like I said, beats Otto Wallin. They were trying to set up the Deontay Wilder Anthony Joshua fight. They were even in talks about it even before this fight, and now Joseph Parker ruined all those plans. Anthony Joshua doesn't know what he wants to do next, which means his fans don't know what they want from him next, which means that heavyweight division is still stagnant, and there's no excitement. Where was the excitement after you win? After you finish this guy Otto Wallin, where was the excitement? Why didn't you call out Francis Ngannou, the real heavyweight champion? Why didn't you call out Tyson Fury, the man you want to fight who has the lineal belt, right? Why didn't you call out Alexander Usyk, maybe the best heavyweight boxer in the world other than Francis Ngannou, weirdly enough? Why didn't any of these come out of your mouth? Are you not wanting these big fights? What is going into Anthony Joshua's mind that's saying, I don't want to fight the best of the best? Or is he saying that? I don't know. He's like trying to let everyone else decide for him. Man, call your shots and it'll be exciting. What you want is what we want most of the time, right? Now, moving on, as we should, to the One Championship cards. Now, much quieter of an event, at least on this side of the world, right? In the US, not many people watch Muay Thai in the US. I mean, per capita, right? On the other side of the world, it's the biggest thing. Boxing barely even exists. It's Muay Thai and MMA, right? And keep in mind, I mean, it's not gonna be the first time I'm saying this. This isn't gonna be the last time. Definitely not the last time. Muay Thai is gonna be a global sport one day. It's gonna be bigger than boxing one day, especially if they continue the 4-ounce gloves. That's a big marketing point, because the 12-ounce gloves or the 10-ounce gloves, they're good, but you get less finishes. You can't see as clean of technique. You can't see as real of technique as you're gonna see in the 4-ounce gloves. It looks a little bit like boxing, where you can shell up and you can just kind of walk forward like that, which isn't very realistic, which is why MMA is so exciting, because it brings that realism, right? And it's like MMA striking without the grappling. Who doesn't love that, right? And I can say this to you, and then you won't go and watch it, but if you watched Tawanchai versus Superbond, that card, which was one of the first pay-per-view events I've seen from One Championship, to be honest. Usually the fights are free or on Amazon Prime, which is a beautiful marketing strategy. But if you see, compared to the Day of Reckoning, which is supposed to be the biggest boxing event ever, right, as far as stacked meter, compared to Tawanchai versus Superbond, one Friday night fights 46, which is supposed to be one of the most stacked Muay Thai fights. I mean, the first fight of the night, keep in mind this might be promotion versus promotion, right? It varies with the promotions. First fight of the night was a guy with over 200 wins and less than, what, 20 losses or 50 losses? Over 200 wins, over 250 fights, going against a guy with about probably 80 or 90 fights, both with 70 to 80% win percentages. And guess what? The one with almost 300 fights ends up losing, gets knocked out unconscious after winning the fight. He was winning the fight technically and ended up losing. A legendary Muay Thai fighter opens up the prelims, gives you a banger of a fight. You don't really care if he won or lost, because you were just happy with the fight. You were happy with the technique you saw. You were happy with how high level it was, and you were happy watching such a beautiful martial art be displayed in Muay Thai. Now, boxing, don't get me wrong, it gets exciting. You get to see beautiful technique. You get to see a beautiful art. You get to see amazing defense, and it's something simpler to where most casuals think they can kind of understand it, right? When they don't really know shit. But then there's 12 rounds and 8 rounds, and it just doesn't work as well. So moving forward with the Muay Thai fights, you're getting finish after finish, and man, it was a amazing card to watch. Whether you watched it live or you can go back and watch it right now. Just type in One Championship Friday Night Fights 46. You can even find the pay-per-view fights on YouTube, because a lot of the time they want you to be able to watch these fights, right? Some of the highlights of the night, I think, were left meteorite Kulab Dam. For my One Championship fans who want to actually know who did well, Kulab Dam had a beautiful left meteorite knockout once again. I mean, they call him left meteorite for a reason. Nabil Anand, coming off of that super leg loss, body shot loss, looked very good against Muay Thai, whom they call the elbow zombie. I mean, if you know anything about Nabil Anand, he's like 6'4" in the flyweight division. It's absolutely ridiculous. He looks like a fucking twig while looking at him, but he'll beat your ass. Yeah, he'll whoop you. Yeah, there ain't no doubt about that. He looked beautiful. He was fighting technical from the outside. Muay Thai was trying to come forward the whole time, trying to close that distance, and he just couldn't. It was a beautiful technical masterclass with a lot of violence still. You compare that to the Wilder and Joseph Parker fight. I was almost falling asleep during that fight, right? And then we have maybe one of the most creative Muay Thai styles that I've ever seen in Sexan, who moves like water, but he's like a zombie at the same time, absorbing damage, giving damage. Just, if you just watch, matter of fact, I'm gonna put some sex and highlights on here and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about, because this man is a maniac and he's so fun to watch that I don't know how, after watching one of his fights, you won't want to watch him every single time. To be honest, I think he can headline some of these Friday night fight cards just because of how exciting his style is. And not to mention the fact that he went against River Dawes, who was an extremely game opponent who I thought actually won the fight. You know, that was a banger of a fight in and of itself. Now, moving forward to the 3 world title fights that we had in Muay Thai. Yeah, 3 world title fights. Pajita ended up fighting Anissa McKisson, the #1 ranked pound-for-pound kickboxer in the world. This was a kickboxing bout, so this wasn't Muay Thai. But Pajita pulled off the upset against Anissa McKisson, ended up beating the pound-for-pound #1 kickboxer in the world. And yeah, she just outstruck her, man. It looked like Anissa couldn't find her range. It looked like maybe she was having trouble with Pajita's style of poking at her and then firing off a combination from all these various and odd ranges and things like that. Or maybe she just had a bad night. I'm not sure what it was, but it looked like she just wasn't on the same playing field as Pajita, to be honest, which is extremely weird to say because Anissa McKisson is a monster. Now, this next fight actually wasn't a world title fight. Nong O versus Nico Carrillo was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Nong O came out battering Nico Carrillo's legs. Nico Carrillo, known as the King of the North, right? He's newer to one championship. I think 3 fights, 3 finishes. But Nong O, former world champion, multiple time Lumpini champion. Nong O, historic career, over 300 fights, over like 300 wins probably. Just coming off of his loss against Jonathan Haggerty, now the best bantamweight kickboxer and Muay Thai fighter in the world. He batters Nico Carrillo's legs. I mean, Nico could barely even stand on them, and somehow finds a way in the next round, after nearly getting finished by leg kicks, to find a corner Nong O, unleash a hammering combination, a disgusting like 15 to 20 punch combination to hurt Nong O, and then never really let up. You know, he maybe gave him space a little bit to circle out into the ropes and then cornered him again and ended Nong O in very brutal fashion. Once again, Nong O received a very bad knockout. I mean, fighting Nico Carrillo at the latter end of your career, I don't think that was the smartest decision, especially coming off of a loss. But I mean, Nong O is a legend, and I'm sure obviously had the confidence to do it. But it was so beautiful to see the respect afterwards as well between Nico Carrillo, who looked up to Nong O for so long. To see the respect between the two, Nong O was extremely humble in defeat and gave everything to Nico Carrillo, and that was just an amazing fight. And guess what? It ended in a finish, which, you know, the earlier fights in the Day of Reckoning card, yeah, they ended in finishes, but you know, there's just a difference in excitement level. And so Nico Carrillo ends up calling out Jonathan Haggerty, which I think is one of the most exciting fights you can make in MMA, Muay Thai, boxing, or any combat sport in general. Well, we got to see what's going to happen with that, because Jonathan Haggerty wants to maybe move to MMA next. But yeah, let me know what you guys think y'all want to see next from Jonathan Haggerty and from Nico Carrillo, for those of you guys who follow one championship. But then moving on, we had Prajan Chai versus Joseph Lasiri. Joseph Lasiri is the kickboxing world champion, and he was the interim Muay Thai world champion. Beautiful boxing combinations, beautiful kickboxer in general. Prajan Chai, though, just ends up knocking him out, sleeping him over. Prajan Chai has just a weird amount of power with these 4-ounce gloves. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. It's almost, you could almost call it the touch of death. I mean, Joseph Lasiri looked like he just got hit by a truck. Prajan Chai is so fun to watch, and the biggest thing about this is that it ended in the first round. Now, keep in mind, this was a rematch between Joseph Lasiri and Prajan Chai. They fought before. Joseph Lasiri actually knocked out Prajan Chai in their first fight. So what are we going to see? Are we going to see a rematch? Are we going to see a trilogy? Is Prajan Chai going to fight someone else? Is Joseph Lasiri going to have to fight someone else before he gets that shot again? We don't know what's going to happen, but we know that these are two iconic figures in the world of striking martial arts, and they're 1-1, both with a finish apiece. You really can't beat that. Amazing showing, amazing performance. And then we get to the world title fight between Tawanchai and Superbon. Superbon being probably the #2 pound-for-pound kickboxer in the world at lightweight. Tawanchai being maybe the #1 pound for pound Muay Thai fighter at lightweight. Is this featherweight? At featherweight, yeah, sorry about that. At featherweight, both of them. Superbon is coming off of a legendary run, beating guys like Sidichai and Giorgio Petrosian and Marat Gregorian. And then he had a loss to Chingiz Salazar, but then came back and fought Ozcan and ended up knocking him out with a beautiful high kick that we talked about earlier on this channel. If you missed that video, I try and talk about one championship events before they come out, especially the big ones like this one. So keep that in mind. Anytime you guys want to hear about an event, just let me know and I'll make a video about it ASAP. But Superbon, being as credentialed as he is, coming off of fighting the top guys in the world, he's a phenomenal kicker, ends up finding the most beautiful high kicks and things like that. Ends up fighting Tawanchai, one of the most devastating Muay Thai fighters that we've ever seen. He's known as a prodigy. He's been kicking through people's blocks to break their arms and kicking through people's legs, and the amount of power and the devastating fashion that Tawanchai has been finishing his last opponents in have been, you know, excruciating to watch, excruciatingly painful. It looks like every fight you see with this guy is excruciatingly painful, and we get a 5-round unanimous decision. Now keep in mind, Muay Thai, we have 3-minute rounds, right? So it goes by pretty quick, but the amount of skill level you saw, the problem solving you saw with them trying to pick each other apart, it just keeps you more entertained. I mean, you're seeing the clash of two styles. One guy who maybe isn't as good with the hands in Superbon, but has amazing kicks, lets them flow out well, and maybe is forced to use a little bit more hands in this matchup, is used to countering people with head kicks. I mean, how often do you hear about people who counter with head kicks, right? Going against a guy in Tawanchai who doesn't care where he kicks. He will kick through your checks, he'll kick through your block. He sets up brutal combinations, elbows. They're both of the highest of level, and you see it play out like this, and immediately people are talking about, oh, we want to see this again, we want to see this match. We don't care who won or lost, but it was so fun to watch in 4-ounce gloves, and so exciting to watch, and so insane to see these two contrasts of styles play out, that we want to see it again even after a unanimous decision victory for Tawanchai. Tawanchai, I don't know where he goes next from here. You know what would be maybe the biggest fight that I can think of right now, since Tawanchai is both doing kickboxing and Muay Thai, competing in both and competing at the highest level in both? Are we ever gonna see Chingiz Salazar versus Tawanchai? Jesus Christ, is that a mega fight? Jesus Christ, are they gonna take my money with that pay-per-view? I mean, I'll buy that. Yeah, no, we're not streaming that one. Chingiz Salazar is the best kickboxer in the world. Chai at that weight is now, he just beat one of the best kickboxers in the world, and he's the best Muay Thai fighter. Would they fight in Muay Thai or would they fight in kickboxing? You know, I haven't seen Chingiz Salazar fight in Muay Thai yet. I personally, maybe he has, maybe he hasn't, but I haven't seen it. Personally, I think he would probably want that in kickboxing. Chai's already been trying to climb the ranks in kickboxing. I think that's the next fight to make, guys. I think that's the next fight to make. But let me know what you guys think about that. Let me know what you guys thought about the Day of Reckoning as well. I think they were tripping when they didn't call out Francis Ngannou. I mean, Anthony Joshua. You know that Wilder just lost. You know that you already beat Joseph Parker, and there isn't much in it for a rematch with you and him. There isn't the most amount of money you can make. Your biggest fight is with Francis Ngannou or Tyson Fury, but he already has a fight lined up. Why was he not calling out Francis Ngannou? Is he scared? Are people scared of Francis Ngannou now that they saw what he just did to Fury? Does he just not want to take that risk? I mean, Francis Ngannou is just sitting on the sidelines watching his work play out. He's the king of MMA, he's the king of boxing. What's next for him? Let me know that in the comments down below. But guys, let me know what you thought about this boxing versus Muay Thai breakdown over this weekend, because like I said, there was no UFC. You had to watch one of the two or both, and I watched both. I saw which one I liked more. I saw which one almost put me to sleep and which one I watched at midnight and wasn't even close to falling asleep with. So guys, make your pick. Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe.